Cervical spine, dorsal spine and lumbar spine have to be examined standing, sitting, lying down, prone, lying down, supine. Alright? So we start off from cervical to lumbar. So you categorize them into spinal signs, you categorize them into neurological signs, and you categorize them into stretch signs. Okay? You make sure that the patient is keeping his or her feet parallel and together, not this way, because that will change the paraspinal muscles tightness and will give you a wrong finding. Meaning if the patient is standing like this, I will find that my right mid lumbar is tighter and left mid dorsal is tighter, which is not the real case. So make sure that the patient is standing upright, keeping limbs parallel, with feet parallel and relaxed. If they don't relax, the paraspinal, the periscapular muscles can become tight. So make sure that they are relaxed and they are not looking down, because looking down will keep the paraspinals tight. So they have to look straight and then look for, in cervical spine, there will be periscapular muscles which will be in spasm. So look straight and then look for paraspinal muscle spasm in the cervical spine. Periscapular muscle spasm, which is usually an attendant problem with cervical spine pathologies. Then mid-dorsal paraspinals and lumbar paraspinals. Alright? Sometimes you will find a cervical spine pathology giving you tenderness in the mid-dorsal areas. In fact, patient coming to you that today morning I caught up with a severe pain here, and that pain is so excruciating that it's difficult for me to breathe, and I almost feel coming till here. There are times when if it is left-sided, they feel that gaya, mere ko heart attack ab bhi aaya hai. Now, if you examine them, you will find that a wee bit cervical paraspinal spasm will be there, and they will have a very localized spasm in either the rhomboid or the deep paraspinals of the dorsal spine, which is not just spasm, but they are excruciatingly tender at one spot. And they tend to get worse when you either flex them or extend them at the cervical spine, not the dorsal spine. So this is a very common thing which a lot of people miss and go to the ICU. I have seen this happen umpteen number of times. That doesn't mean you don't take it seriously. If you don't get those signs, then you better send it to ICU. I had the misfortune of having someone whom I knew having a pain in the back like this only, who was outside India, saying that because that person had some cervical disc issues some time ago, so he felt that it's there. And he described me that pain. He being a medical person, thought the same way that it is an interscapular muscle spasm. But he said, sir, it's too bad. So the way he described it, I said, okay, boss, this is not orthopedics. You call someone from nearby and make sure that you rush to the hospital nearest. Fortunately, he called. By the time that contact came in, he had collapsed. He was taken and he was revived and he's doing very well. But what I'm saying is such rarities do happen. So don't always remain in that cool, kuch nahi hai. Sometimes it is important to pick up those specifics. Because if it is behaving, all mechanical pains will change with mechanical movements. This is a very simple thing to remember. If on flexion it increases or extension it increases, it cannot be cardiac. Understand? It's a mechanical thing. Talking about pain localizers, asymmetric muscle spasms, the neurological thing. And so many muscles, so many spasm is possible, right? Trapezius, rhomboid, levator, periscapular, deltoid, latissimus dorsi, the deep paraspinals or the erector spine, and the dorsal lumbar fascia. Lot of dorsal lumbar fasciae are very tight because of wrong postures for prolonged periods of time, and they themselves may be giving pain. That's why they feel so nice when someone massages them. So, cervical spine, paraspinal muscles, periscapular muscles, and as I said, lot of them have either the trapeziae or the levator scapulae or the upper rhomboid or the lower rhomboid in spasm, all of them, or alternately, or one specific one. So when you have an asymmetric muscle spasm, it's mechanical. Look up. Maximum that you can. Max. Down. Straight. Sideways. More. Other side. Straight. I have this habit of keeping my hands on the periscapular muscles because you will be able to pick up the spasm much better when you keep your hands there when they are moving. If you have this asymmetry, you will find that one of the muscles goes tighter in only one movement compared to others. So that's where I pick up that asymmetry. So you may not be able to see a visual restriction in range, but you will be able to pick up one going tighter than the other, and that's my point of that's definitely mechanical. Then look for range of motion. So from the outside, what you can look is the rotations. I mean, from when you're looking from there, I'm not coming in the way, so I'm standing here, but you are ideally supposed to be here to see exactly how much range is getting restricted, because that little restriction range is what you have to pick up. So you have rotation on the left, rotation on the right. Now you may have a situation where the patient goes till here only for the left and says, there is pain. And here they can go right till there. So there is an asymmetric range restriction. Again, mechanical. Then lateral flexion on each side. Look for those changes and subsequently in follow-up look for those changes whether they started improving. So not only are you getting a symptomatic improvement, you need to get a examination finding improvement also for it to be of value. Otherwise you have patient feeling better but the range remaining in the same asymmetric restriction. That means the deeper pathology is not resolved. And you need to make it resolve. Otherwise, they'll come back with the symptoms. Now look there. Then you look from the sides. Meaning you got to take this view. And I am seeing it this way. And then ask them to do extension. Ask them to do flexion. And then this is what we usually miss doing, and that is retraction. See that? Press here and press the chin behind. Retraction may be the only range which might be restricted in a lot of cervical disc patients. The other ranges may be good, but the cervical retraction may be the only range which is restricted in a cervical disc pain. So this subsides recover. Okay, it's retraction is, imagine someone coming very close to you and say, "Kya kar raha hai?" That is retraction. A lot of patients can't do that retraction. They'll either look up or they'll just go there. The real retraction is here. Because today in the world, we are all looking down for all the screens. So, that range of restriction in the retraction is more out of prolonged wrong posture rather than pure disc.
We have to check for the restriction as well as pain both.
Both, correct. So a lot of times you may have only restriction and no pain. But pain, if it is there, then it is important. Because that is what will lead you to whether you are getting improvement or not improved. So there are times that people have been stiff, like I have all my life never been able to touch my toes. Doesn't mean I have a disc.
All these people who are having no retraction at all, but there is no pain.
Correct. So that is what I am talking. You need to ask where is the pain. Their mechanics have been restricted because they have not used those soft tissues. As I am saying, I have never been able to touch my toes ever in my life.
So it's not discogenic.
Correct. It's just basically that my posterior structures are tighter than normal. So you need to ask if there is pain also. Of course, you have a person who is not able to bend even this much, then even if it is not painful, it is pathological. When you make them move and they say pain, you tell them where is the pain. That's a very important question to ask. When you bend and they say pain ho raha hai, if there is a general pain, it's not of major significance. But when they say that either pain ho gaya, you're talking that there is a worsening of the radicular component. So this is a mechanical problem. All right. Neurological sensation. C6. Start from here. Sorry. C4 is the tip. C5 is the military badge. C6 is the thumb. C7 is the tip of middle finger. C8 is tip of little finger. T1 is medial forearm and T2 is just infraaxillary. Sensations. Motor. Tact. So intrinsics of hand T1. Grip. Grip is C8 and T1 both. Flex the wrist. Flex the wrist. Volar. Flex the wrist upwards. Volar flexion of wrist C8. Dorsiflexion of wrist C7. Biceps is C5-6. नीचे. Triceps is C6-7. बाहर. Deltoid is C5. Then biceps jerk C5-6. Supinator jerk C6-7, C6 more. Tricep jerk C6-7, C7 more. So you have localizing possibilities when you see this neurologically. Sometimes triceps weakness may not be available just by this. You may have to go against gravity to get that 4+ thing. एक मिनट जरा. Normally triceps we examine like this, push down. In sometimes when you are sure clinically कि ये C6-7 ही लग रहा है, so get them here and then do this. That time you may be able to pick up that 4+ situation. It's the Addison's test. So you imagine I'm here. You need to keep the shoulders totally relaxed for both the sides, and you check both the things together. Keeping the hand on your on the patient's radial pulse, then ask the patient to look up and behind, and take a deep breath and hold. If the radial pulse reduces or stops on one side, that side is the Addison's side, positive. Then repeat on the other, take a deep breath, hold. Any of the two giving you reduction in the radial volume or absence of radial pulse is a positive Addison's test, and that is a sign of thoracic outlet obstruction, which could be a DD to cervical disc radiculopathies. So cervical spine you've seen. In cervical spine, if there is only pain and restriction of rotation, everything else is superb, and the patient is talking about higher cervical or occipital pain, keep in mind C1, C2 pathologies. Repeat. Pure rotational restriction with pain in a higher cervical or cervico-occipital pain. Think of C1, C2 pathologies. In older age groups, we are talking about 70 and above, C1, C2 degenerative edemas are a known phenomenon. Degenerative, but they undergo an inflammatory phase where the C1, C2 remains inflamed for a period of 2, 3, 4, 5 months. And then only restriction is ouch. Only one rotation is severely restricted, and you may be able to get a tenderness which is very high upper cervical, paraspinal or cervico-occipital junction. And if they do get an MRI done, you will have to ask for the C1, C2 MRI, because standard cervical spine MRIs do not give you C1, C2. So if you are looking at that possibility, mention in your advice that cervical spine, please include C1, C2, and you will usually find a occipito-atlantal joint inflammation or a C1, C2 facet joint inflammation on the MRI. And in such people, you will have to immobilize them with not the standard cervical collar, but the Philadelphia collar, which will include the occiput up to the chin, so that there is no rotation involved. The standard cervical collar allows rotation. Philadelphia collar does not allow rotation. We want to stop that range for it to be given rest, so the inflammation settles. The other thing in cervical spine is the CD junction. The cervicodorsal junction, the cervicodorsal junction is normally only this much prominent, but in people who are very regularly protracted because of posture problems or because of their professional demands, tend to develop prominent CD junction, and that is known as Dowager's hump. That may be tender purely because of that prominence.
Also in obesity.
Also in obesity, yes.
And it also stays in people who have lost weight after obesity, but that hump still remains.
Yes, but that is happening because of poorer posture. Those who are obese lose weight big time, but don't improve their muscle tone, their posture goes, and that's why that udar ka fat pad is still there, plus the posture of protraction makes it look more prominent than it is really.
But its prominence may be just like that without any symptoms.
Correct. So lot of Dowager humps, lot of CD junction prominences are asymptomatic and may have no clinical value.
Yes.
Unless your other examination findings tell you that there is a cervical spine pathology, and with that you are improving the posture, you might as well do this as well. It's just that.